I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of a rich mahogany. Hello my lovelies, and thank you so much for tuning in to this video. As you can see, we've got a different background going today. I am back in my own house in northern Kentucky. I did document a little bit of a journey back home from Cambridge, so if you're interested in seeing that, I will link it down below in the description box. So yeah, I decided to film today in my office, library, spare room, whatever you want to call it. So you can see I've got some books and other nerdy things behind me. There's more over here, but I just feel like this was the cleanest room to record in today. I did try cleaning a little bit earlier, but it aggravated I did try a little bit of cleaning earlier, but it really just aggravated my allergies. My eyes were watering, it was snotty. I mean, it was a hot mess. So I was like, no more cleaning. But here we are, we made it work. The show must go on. So today I want to talk about something that's a little bit more personal, and I'm going to start with a sentence that I never thought I would find myself saying on YouTube, but I haven't had a period in 2 months. No, I am not pregnant. I have a condition called Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, which can also be abbreviated as PCOS, and I think some people might call it polycystic ovarian disease or disorder, but I've always heard it as PCOS. And this is something that I've been dealing with since I was about 15 years old. So polycystic ovarian syndrome is a condition of the endocrine system. So it affects different hormones in your body, namely the amount of testosterone, which all women produce testosterone, but women with PCOS produce a higher level of testosterone. Still somewhere in between women and men, but it is higher than the average woman. It also affects the amount of insulin, or your body's ability to utilize the insulin that is produced by the pancreas. It also affects luteinizing hormone, which is a hormone secreted by the pituitary gland, which is in your brain. Namely, luteinizing hormone controls our ability to ovulate each month in the middle of our cycle. I'm not attempting to offer a medical explanation of the condition. I'm just simply giving a basic overview of what it is and what it does and sharing my experience about it. So polycystic ovarian syndrome is generally diagnosed clinically through a combination of different symptoms or presentations. Most commonly and most obviously are irregular periods or skipping periods, which is called amenorrhea. And it can also be associated with anovulation, which is not producing an egg each month in our cycle. Another common symptom is called hirsutism, which is just a medical term for excess body hair, typically in places where you don't expect to see it on women, such as the face. There are some women who develop full facial beards, or it can just be something like maybe just a little bit thicker hair on the upper lip, some little hairs on the chin. Sideburns are also fairly common. It can be thicker, darker body hair. I'm not sure if you can, I've got a little bit, I'm a little hairy, so that's where it comes into play for me. Hair on the chest, on your breasts, around your nipples, hair on the stomach, thicker, coarser leg hair and pubic hair. So just places where you generally don't expect it to see on women, and that is generally caused by the excess testosterone that we produce. And it can also cause darkening of the skin in certain areas, generally anywhere there's a fold where, you know, part of your body meets another part of your body, like your armpit, underneath your breasts and around your neck are fairly common. It can also make it difficult to lose weight. And make it easier to gain weight. That's certainly been true for me, but generally women with PCOS have a harder time losing weight even when they try to, when they follow diet and exercise plans. They don't lose weight in the same way as they don't lose as much weight as they normally would. Another unfortunate aspect of PCOS is that it can cause infertility, because if we're not producing eggs, then you can't get pregnant through natural means. You have to have some type of intervention involved, either through medication or with assisted fertility techniques such as IVF or other such means. In my case, I've been dealing with PCOS since I was about 15 years old. That was when I was first diagnosed by my OB-GYN. I had gone in originally to address a potential hormonal cause of acne that had not been sufficiently remedied by topical or oral medications that my dermatologist had tried. And so he said, well, there's got to be another root cause to this, so I'm going to refer you to an OB-GYN and we'll see if they can figure it out. And so by taking my history and just kind of asking different questions, she said, well, you know, I think you might have this condition called Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. And the way that she diagnosed it was by doing a blood draw to check the amount of testosterone in my blood, which was elevated. And then we also did a glucose tolerance test to check the efficiency of the insulin in my body. And so through that test, she had determined that I was pre-diabetic. Being diagnosed with being close to having type 2 diabetes as a teenager doesn't bode well for the rest of your life as far as your health goes. So I made an effort to turn things around. We started on oral contraceptive. We started on an oral contraceptive and a medication called spironolactone. Spironolactone is a diuretic, which is a medication that pushes excess water from your body. And they don't really know why that works on PCOS, but it is a common medication given to people with this condition. Another possible medication is metformin, which is specifically for diabetes. And it's my understanding that that can often help women when they have PCOS, but they're still trying to conceive. So obviously they don't want to go on birth control because they're trying to get pregnant. And so metformin is sometimes able to be helpful in those cases. So the birth control is helpful by taking over control of your hormones, so that way everything can get on a regular cycle again. And those two, the two medications, the spironolactone and the birth control, were pretty effective for me. I would still get occasional breakouts as far as the acne went, but it was very successful in regulating my period, and that was the first time that it ever happened to me in my life. Great as far as, you know, those aspects of the PCOS until I was maybe in my early 20s, like 21 or 22, and something happened, and I don't know exactly what the cause was. It probably might have been due to a weight gain, but my acne just got so much worse than it had ever been when I was a teenager. And the acne that's associated with polycystic ovarian syndrome is severe. It is painful. There's a type of acne called nodular acne, where the bumps show up underneath the skin, like in the deep dermis layer of the skin. So you can't pop them or access them anyway. They're just like painful bumps underneath the skin. And then there's another type called pustules, where they're like really large whiteheads. And again, painful and sensitive because of the inflammation involved with that type of acne. And I had it all over my face. And let me get close here so I can kind of show you those hyperpigmented areas here. I've had that's from when I was in my 20s. That is not teenager related acne. That is adult acne. And it was terrible. You know, like my face hurt all the time. You can't cover it up. Makeup isn't going to really cover that up. And in my case, it hurt too much to even attempt to put anything on it. So I saw another dermatologist and he put me on a course of Accutane. Accutane is a very intense medication. It is an oral form of a retinol. And the way that it works is that it shrinks the oil glands in your skin, or your sebaceous glands. So they produce sebum or oil. And the idea is that if you don't have the oil blocking your pores, they're not getting clogged, and then you have less acne. For me, the side effect of that is that I now depend on chapstick all the time because my lips are now so dry from taking the Accutane. But I would do it again because, as you can see, it worked. I think I was on it for maybe about 6 months or so. And in that time, I had a job where I had to visit clients in their home on a quarterly basis. So like while I was on the medication, and then 3 months later, I went back to this one client's house and she made a comment of, you know, I don't want to upset you. I just really wanted to tell you that whatever it is that you're doing for your skin, it is working. So keep doing it. And I understood that she meant well by that comment. And it's discouraging to hear that, you know, of something when you're already aware of the problem, you don't want to think that's all people are seeing, but it's on your face and it's everywhere and it's obvious, and and it's, you know, it's where people look at you when they speak to you. So of course they're going to notice. But at the same time, you know, I was of course glad to hear that it was obvious to someone else that it was working. And like I said, it's an intense medication. They make you do monthly blood draws before they'll even give you a prescription. For one thing, they're checking your triglycerides, or the amount of cholesterol in your blood, to make sure that you don't have any physical health problems. But for another thing, if you're a woman taking Accutane, you have to do a monthly pregnancy test. You have to go online and sign into this program before they give you the medication, saying that you will use 2 forms of birth control and that you will never, ever, ever, upon pain of death, get pregnant on this medication, because it has the potential to cause fetal birth defects. So it's intense, but it works. And like I said, I would do it again. So from that point on, got the skin part figured out. The birth control part was controlling the periods, and, you know, had the side effect of preventing pregnancy. So hey, and then like maybe 2-ish years ago, I found out that I have a type of thrombophilia, which is a condition where your body is more prone to developing blood clots than the normal person. And estrogen-based birth control also increases your risk of developing blood clots. And I've never had a clot. No one in my immediate family has had blood clots, but my grandmother did in her 30s. So now that I'm into my 30s, that was a concern once I found out that I had this condition. So I made the decision to take myself off of birth control, you know, knowing the ramifications of what it would do potentially for my skin, as well as, you know, kind of controlling my cycles. But I theorized that, you know, well, I'm in my 30s now. Certainly my hormones are in better control than they were when I was 15 or 16. And I've been on it, and I've been on birth control for most of my life. But my main concern also was just that, you know, would my acne come back full force like it did when I was in my 20s? And I did go through some growing pains. You know, it took me a couple of months for my cycles to get on a regular schedule, but eventually they did. Like, you know, 25, 26-ish days. And then I worked with my dermatologist. I said, you know, this is the decision I'm making to go off of this medication. You know, what can we do to kind of tackle the skin issue? And she started me on a topical medication called Epiduo Forte. And this is it right here. This is the Epiduo. So it is a combination of 2 medications. One is the adapalene gel, which is a type of retinol. It can also be called Differin gel, which you can now buy over the counter at any pharmacy or grocery store. And then the second one is benzoyl peroxide. So the way this works is the adapalene increases the cell turnover, and the benzoyl peroxide goes into the pores to clean out the bacteria that potentially cause acne and buildup. So that way, any acne you do develop usually goes away a lot quicker than it would if it were not for this medication. The other benefit is that retinol is anti-aging, so I use it all over the face, and that way I don't have to worry about having a retinol on my skincare products. So just a little tip, if you are on any type of retinol medication for anti-acne, it is also anti-aging. Use that everywhere. So, you know, at this point I do still get some occasional breakouts. Like I had one right here on my chin a few weeks ago. They usually come just one at a time. I'm not getting clusters. It's nothing painful. They usually just develop into a small whitehead. And then I get some pigmentation that lasts for a while, but it eventually goes away. But like I was showing you earlier, some things I can't quite get to go away because they were so deep in the skin. I am now working on developing a skincare routine to try and address those problems, but it doesn't really bother me a whole lot. I could cover them with high coverage foundation if I chose to, but that's just not my preference for wearing makeup. So I'm okay with these. They don't bother me, but still I'm working on improving the state of my skin overall. Is just a goal that I've had this year. So the one thing that's kind of been surprising that is an issue again is that, you know, now, like I said, I'm into my 30s. My period's been pretty regular without birth control the past few years, but my body decided to throw me a curveball in that I have skipped a period for the first time in I don't know how many years. Pregnancy, not a possibility. I don't really know what is causing this. It could just be just like a random spike in my hormones. I did start taking levothyroxine which is a medication for hypothyroid but my doctor doesn't seem to think that that could be related. It could also be due to a weight gain that I've had over the past year. I am now at a point where I am maintaining. I am not losing or I'm not gaining. But in my experience, a weight gain has always gone hand in hand with the exacerbation of my PCOS symptoms. And in the past, the times that I have lost weight, I've noticed improvements. So I know that that's something that I should be working on. But like I said, with PCOS, it can make it very difficult to lose weight. In my case, it's always made it easier for me to gain weight. I have a very difficult time maintaining weight loss when I do achieve it. I don't know how many times I've gained and lost weight over the course of my life, but it's been a lot. The last time I lost about 70 pounds in maybe like eight or 9 months, and was not able to sustain it long term. But I don't know for sure if that is the reason why my body has thrown me a curveball. I don't know what's going to happen, if it's going to appear like it normally would for the next month and it's going to be like I skipped, or if I'm going to skip a couple of months. There is certainly the potential for that when you have PCOS. I am not in control of my cycle. It's the hormones that are not at the appropriate level. You need to go see a doctor to kind of get things reevaluated. But we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I really can't go to the doctor's office for something like that. I have to kind of wait until everything dies down. So that's where I'm at. It is frustrating, and if you are watching this and you've been struggling with the condition, or if you just recently been diagnosed with it, you understand the struggle. The experience of PCOS is not the same for everyone. If you feel comfortable, I would love to hear your comments, share your stories so that we can support each other and help each other through struggling with this condition, especially since now we're at a time in the country where we are physically isolated and then we feel emotionally isolated. So you don't have to struggle through this alone if it's something that you're dealing with. On the other hand, if you have been able to overcome a lot of the issues with dealing with PCOS, I would also love to hear about that. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below, because you are not alone. None of us are alone in this. This affects about 5 to 10% of women of reproductive age. So there are a lot of us out there. So thank you so much for listening to my story. I know this was kind of a different tone and a different type of video than the ones that I've done before. But I hope to make more like this, where we can talk and engage more about a specific topic. Hi. Say hi. Say hi. I know you hate it when I pick you up because you think I'm going to try and take you somewhere. I've got a lot of different ideas for this channel, so I hope you'll support me and continue to watch. Click that subscription button and ring the bell so you can be notified for upcoming videos. And thank you so much for watching.